Your mind doesn't work in black and white. Neither should your news. Oregon Considered, when you want the shades of gray.
Asia Now with Leslie Wilcox in Honolulu and Yuko Awatani in Tokyo.
Greetings from our Honolulu studios at the crossroads of the Pacific. I'm Leslie Wilcox. Here are some of the stories we'll cover in this week's edition of Asia Now. Taiwan's elections make history. Vietnamese and Americans help restore Vietnam's environment. Victims of Tokyo's nerve gas attack still suffer 1 year later. And students role-play global economic and political negotiations. To begin this week's report, we go to the NHK studios in Tokyo.
Greetings from Tokyo. I'm Yuko Awatani. The results are in from Taiwan's first presidential election. While saber-rattling by China and the United States grabbed much of the headlines, the real news was that the democratic process worked.
"21 million Taiwanese voters chose the pro-democracy advocate President Lee Teng-hui to lead the island to a more prominent role on the international stage.
Thank you very much for all the many people from every corner of the world. There is no loneliness and solitude at all. Thank you."
The days leading up to the election were tense as neighboring China conducted military war games and test-fired missiles in a failed attempt to affect the vote's outcome. Beijing has repeatedly blasted the pro-democracy stance of President Lee as an overt push for independence. The election, which Taiwan touted as being the first ever direct vote for president in 5,000 years of Chinese history, went ahead as planned.
It's an election where we will choose our own leader. I'm so excited. I'm very happy with the election results.
As the first president to be elected directly by the people, Lee must now tackle two difficult problems. The first is to seek wider international recognition for Taiwan, the platform he campaigned on, and the second is to diffuse an extremely volatile relationship with China.
The attention focused on current relations between Taiwan and China has obscured the history leading up to last week's elections in Taiwan. We have this background report.
To mark how far Taiwan has come in the democratic process, former political prisoners gathered in Taipei just before the election. They were freed from prison when laws aimed at punishing political dissidents were abolished after the lifting of nearly 4 decades of martial law in 1987.
During these 38 years, many people rebelled. They were arrested and imprisoned. Many died in jail. We lost a lot of lives.
Today, many of these former activists lead the charge for the island's opposition parties. Huang Jinan had been condemned to death and spent 20 years on death row before being released.
We wasted 20 years in prison because of Chiang Kai-shek's dictatorship. Look at this. I was tortured by having my fingernail ripped off. They're trying to make me say I attempted to kill President Chiang Ching-kuo.
Oppression of Taiwanese dissidents escalated soon after Kuomintang soldiers first fled to the island from mainland China, where a civil war with the communists was being waged. On February 28, 1947, a KMT soldier beat a female cigarette vendor, leading to widespread riots against the Kuomintang, known as the 228 incident. Angry Taiwanese used it to vent their frustrations at the KMT, saying it was corrupt. The Kuomintang tried to suppress the unrest through military force. An estimated 28,000 people were killed over the following week. Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek moved his defeated government to Taiwan 2 years later, and martial law prevailed for the next 38 years. About 12 kilometers to the southeast of Taiwan is Green Island. It was once referred to as Prison Island, since it was here that the KMT persecuted more than 5,000 political prisoners. It remained that way until 1987, when such political oppression was banned. Remnants of the darker days still remain, though. At the site of the old prison, political slogans carved in rock can still be found. Today, about the only visitors to Green Island are tourists who come here for snorkeling and vacations by the seaside. Huang Jinan will likely celebrate his 81st birthday this year alone in his Taipei apartment. He returned home from prison to find his family had abandoned him. Authorities had a constant watch on the family during his internment. His wife and daughter grew sick and tired of having their lives so closely scrutinized. Since Huang could do little for them in jail, they left him and went to live in the United States.
They send me money for my minimum living expenses. About $500 a month. But they never write me letters. It's always only money.
Are they still mad at their father?
Yes, they are.
While in prison, Huang's lone enjoyment came from playing the harmonica. He often plays a song he and his fellow prisoners composed while behind bars. Last year, a monument commemorating the 228 incident was erected in a park in front of the president's office. President Lee admits the government was wrong to oppress the citizens and has officially apologized to the families of those who died. Lin Zhongyi, whose father was killed in the 228 incident, represents bereaved family members. He's been investigating the incident and pressing the government for compensation. Lin praises President Lee's actions, saying that no other Chinese leader in history has ever apologized to the people.
He pushed through with his apology, even though there still is opposition. I believe this was because he thought democracy is necessary for Taiwan.
Even though Huang Jinan lost his family and wasted much of his life behind bars, his feelings toward Taiwan have not wavered.
I still haven't been compensated, but in spite of this, I'm not resentful. I fought for my ideals.
Taiwan prides itself on being one of the few regions in Asia without a single political prisoner. It's a tribute, perhaps, to just how far democracy has taken root on the island in such a short period of time.
Years before the United States and Vietnamese governments normalized relationships, American and Vietnamese citizens began working together to rebuild Vietnam's ravaged countryside. We have this report from Vietnam.
Many picture Vietnam as a flat country of rice paddies and small villages, plus a few crowded cities. In fact, 3/4 of this country is a rugged patchwork of mountains and ridges, upland valleys and rushing streams. Unexplored Vietnamese forests are home to thousands of unnamed creatures and plants. Just last year, 2 completely new species of animals were found here, the first new mammals discovered anywhere in the world since the 1950s. These forests are vital to Vietnam's main crop, rice, because they moderate the flow of water from the mountains to the paddies in the plains below. And recently they've been severely damaged. American bombs and herbicides destroyed 5 million acres of Vietnam's forest cover during the war. And while for centuries only tribal people farmed the hillsides, in recent decades settlers from the lowlands moved up into the hills, clear-cutting forests for farming and timber sales. Rain washed topsoil from the bare slopes into the rivers, causing disastrous flooding in the rice fields below.
I think there's a main environmental problem that Vietnam is facing today is deforestation.
In the early 80s, Vietnam's foremost environmentalist, Dr. Vo Quy, tackled this problem by helping establish an extensive national park system to preserve remaining forests. At the same time, his colleague, Dr. Lê Trong Cook, started projects which replanted barren hillsides with native species, home gardens, and crop plantations. In 1989, Dr. Terry Rambo of Honolulu's East-West Center started bringing in American scientists and funding to assist the projects begun by the 2 Vietnamese biologists. This cooperation in regreening the Vietnamese countryside was one of the early steps in rebuilding goodwill between the U.S. and Vietnam after decades of conflict.
Last year, we assembled the largest environmental research team to visit Vietnam since the war. We wanted to look at the ongoing projects that are restoring Vietnam's environment. And we also wanted to look at how changes in the economy are affecting the countryside. After planning our work in Hanoi, we went to the countryside to see how things had changed there in the last few years. Most of the news is good. Farm families now work their own land, and nearly all feel their lives have improved. The markets are now filled with consumer goods, and there are all sorts of new businesses springing up in the countryside. The hillsides are now covered with forests on slopes that were just gullies a short while ago. Certainly, the changes aren't all for the good. The gap between rich and poor has grown enormously and will likely grow more in the future. Education and health care are no longer free, so that many poor families cannot afford medical services or school for their kids. Industrial pollution threatens people's health.
On the whole, though, farms are producing more, and there's a sense of energy and optimism that wasn't seen in the Vietnamese countryside a few years ago. And after years of effort by both Americans and Vietnamese, the hillsides of Vietnam are becoming green again. From Vietnam, Eric Herter for Asia Now.
Comments regarding the cancellation of Asia Now continue to dominate our email. Here's an example from a Michigan viewer. My public station has several cooking shows, several hunting shows, and several building shows, but only one Asia Now. It would be a shame if students such as myself lose this valuable educational experience. And many have asked what can be done to reverse the decision. Please keep up your phone calls, letters, and email. This support helps us in our fight to attract funding and make a comeback. We'll keep the homepage alive as long as possible, and we'd like to hear from you.
Just over a year ago, terrorists released a deadly nerve gas on crowded Tokyo subway cars during the rush hour commute. Police have charged members of the religious cult Aum Shinrikyo in the attacks, which killed 11 and hospitalized another 5,000. 1 year later, many victims are still suffering from after effects.
On the day of the attack, 606 of the victims were treated by St. Luke's International Hospital in Tokyo, which recently sent them questionnaires on their health. "45% of the respondents complain of severe after effects from the siren, mainly troubled eyesight. Others say they suffer fatigue and headaches. Some doctors told the victims they wouldn't suffer any after effects, but these respondents are living proof of the contrary. Trading company employee Hidekazu Kitano was in one of the subway cars on his way to work when the siren was released. He also says his eyes tire easily and has difficulty focusing. His doctor says the siren likely damaged his ciliary muscles, which adjust the volume of light coming into the eyes. The affliction is shared by many other patients.
A year has passed and my eye condition is getting a little better. But still, it's a shock I'm not completely cured yet. Also, I feel so much stress when I think of all the damage the sarin has caused. I don't know what to do with my feelings.
In addition to the physical aspects, the mental anguish the attack caused has perhaps been even greater. The painful memories are still fresh in the minds of almost every respondent. This 29-year-old Tokyo woman is so distraught, she's begun seeing a psychiatrist on a regular basis.
I'm so scared without any reason. To me, the underground, Aum Shinrikyo, and sarin all mean the same thing. I don't know what makes me so scared or so sad, but sometimes I can't help crying or shaking, and I get a pain in my chest.
After the attack, she was sent to a nearby hospital, but in the midst of the confusion, she was told to go home without being treated because there were many others in more serious condition. She says she had a fit of asthma the next day and had to stay in bed for a month. She eventually went back to work, but later found she was too weak to make it to the office on a daily basis.
I know I caused a lot of trouble for my company, but I couldn't help it. My boss told me that if my condition was bad, it was my fault, not Aum Shinrikyo's. I've lost all my hope for the future. All I have is anxiety. I wonder why I have to have such difficulty.
She claims no one understands her plight. That's why she's so depressed. She's also worried about her health. Her fear increased even further after learning of other crimes allegedly committed by the Aum Shinrikyo cult. She eventually quit her job. The hospital says about 20% of those who responded to the questionnaire require professional treatment for psychological disorders.
I think it's quite natural for the victims to suffer such after effects after such a terrible nerve gas attack. I want the patients to know they will recover if they receive proper care. In order for them to restore their confidence and regain mental stability, we'll have to accept the reality and take into consideration their suffering.
According to the survey, 40% of the victims worry about recurring ailments and what they might pass on to their children. This kind of follow-up survey has been conducted by only a handful of hospitals. So the true scope of the physical and mental after effects is still not fully known.
The 18 countries that make up the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, or APEC, include nearly half the world's population and more than half the world's total trade. High school students in Hawaii are learning about the importance of the region through role-playing at the first-ever Model APEC conference. Malia Zoglin reports.
Today's newspaper that said the U.S. would become seriously involved if China would make a move against...
You've probably heard of Model United Nations, or even mock trials, educational exercises to help students learn about the real world. These Roosevelt High School students in Honolulu are learning about the Asia-Pacific Economic Forum, or APEC, an organization dedicated to promoting economic cooperation among member countries. Their task is to role-play United States representatives at the first Model APEC conference. It's a tall order, considering the U.S. is at the center of nearly every Asia-Pacific issue.
Protect Taiwan in a military fight.
Are you sure?
We're the little peacekeepers of the world. Yeah. We will protect that. What was that little thing I wrote down before? We will reject proposal which would place at risk the risk of peace and growth of the Taiwanese people. So anything that will hamper what they're doing right now, we would stop.
That the needs of the majority must be considered as well.
On the day of the conference, more than 100 students from 4 islands gathered to discuss issues and come up with a Honolulu Declaration. But as the morning progressed, it was increasingly clear that, just like in the real world, China-Taiwan relations were at a boiling point.
It broke away from China as a result
Discussions broke down in the negotiations room, where the China, Taiwan, and U.S. representatives could not agree on what the level of U.S. military presence should be in the Asia-Pacific region.
We are disappointed with the United States in establishing its one China policy and not recognizing that Taiwan is a regional economic power and deserves to be treated with equal respect in world affairs and negotiations.
What the United States is doing is interfering in what we call internal problems in China and Taiwan. Thank you.
Our foreign policy in this region is to protect prosperity, security, and freedom. We are protecting our own ideals and the ideals of our allies.
But the students were a quick study in the art of negotiation and took their discussions out of the meeting room and into the hallways and just about anywhere they could get their message across.
Taiwan wants China to establish democracy and thereafter to be reunified into China. It does not want us.
Of course, we recognize that policy statement. Yeah, but we disagree with the way in which they're trying to achieve it. What we're saying...
No, wait, what do you recognize? I'm sorry.
We recognize...
Could we get a complete statement from the Republic of China, please?
By role-playing countries of the Asia-Pacific region, students have had to learn the art of international negotiations. It's been an eye-opening experience for some who plan to use their newfound skills in future endeavors.
I've noticed that even though the Chinese may be hard-headed and we only view it through our eyes, that the only way to get anything done throughout this whole conference is that we have to adapt and bend for each other in the hopes of world peace and economic and political stability throughout the world.
Still, only 1 out of the 3 negotiating teams was able to reach a consensus. And true to real negotiators, their declaration was a very broad and rather vague statement. But the experience helped many understand the complexities of international relations.
This has helped us pay more attention to current events and the newspaper, the international scene.
Diane Peters-Wynn, director of the Hawaii nonprofit Pacific and Asian Affairs Council, which sponsors the conference, says she plans to expand the project internationally and believes that these learning experiences are vital to students' education.
I think you're looking at the leaders of 2020. I think that the students that we have in there are of incredible quality. And in hearing them this morning, it struck me that these are our leaders.
And for these students, playing a role in the Asia-Pacific region is something they can say they have already done. Malia Zoglin for Asia Now in Honolulu.
And that's it for this week on Asia Now. And for our audience in North America, this is also our final program, at least for now. Since we announced Asia Now's cancellation in the United States, we've been deluged with letters of support and thanks. These expressions of your appreciation have meant a great deal to all of us on the Asia Now staff, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
And in Tokyo, I'm Yuko Aotani. Leslie, on behalf of all of us at NHK, I send our thanks for a job well done to our colleagues at Hawaii Public Television and KCTS Seattle. It's been a pleasure working with you, and we hope that we'll do so again in the future. Until then, sayonara.
Thank you, Yuko, and thanks also to the excellent staff at NHK and KCTS who've helped make this series of programs possible. To our loyal audience, you should know that we have not given up the search for production funding. We leave you now with a montage of scenes from past programs. I'm Leslie Wilcox, and ahui ho kako. Until we meet again, aloha.
Interact with Asia Now. Visit our worldwide website for program features and online forums. For more information, email us at asianow@neog.com.
Next time on Nova.
My mother raised us all on Dr. Spock, almost exclusively, I think.
He revolutionized childcare.
Ben Spock, the presidential candidate of the People's Party.
But some said he took it too far.
I did not come here to be arrested. I came here to show my abhorrence of the war.
Activist, athlete, family man. Dr. Spock, the baby doc.
On OPB, Tuesday at 8.
If this guy were real, he'd need surgery fast. On Scientific American Frontiers, we'll see how he gets it. From a surgeon who isn't even here. We'll also see how computers give a surgeon X-ray vision. We'll see how a human gene helps save a leg.